The Chiropractic Philanthropist, episode 249.
So we have these little tricks of the trade that we can throw in there that give people tools so they don't sabotage themselves by saying, oh, you know what, I'm giving up all sugar, I'm going on a diet, this is going to be great. And then, 6 days later, they're like, I can't stand it anymore because I'm miserable.
Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
My guest today on the Chiropractic Philanthropist is Mark Sisson. Mark is the New York Times bestselling author of the book, The Primal Blueprint. Mark is one of the true pioneers of the primal lifestyle and the ancestral movement. In this episode, we actually have the audio of a one-on-one conversation that I had with Mark in a webinar-style format. In this episode, Mark helps us better understand how we can implement the primal lifestyle into our practices and improve patient outcomes. Now, let's first thank our sponsor for today, and that is ChiroClicker. ChiroClicker is the world's first chiropractic adjusting instrument for kids. It allows children to play chiropractors at home, pretending to adjust their family and all their teddies and dolls. Chiropractors can buy the ChiroClicker in bulk and sell them in their office or give away for free to practice members. TCP listeners get a 10% discount by using the coupon code TCP10. That's head over to chiroclicker.com and use the discount code TCP10 ChiroClicker, nurturing the next generation of chiropractors. That we start with actually, Mark, if you could just define what really is Primal Blueprint. And so define that for doctors before we start.
Sure. The Primal Blueprint is a set of suggestions, recommendations, a template, if you will, for living an awesome life. Now, what does that mean? Well, for most people, that means, how can I be strong, lean, fit, healthy, happy, and productive with the least amount of pain, suffering, sacrifice, discipline, doctor visits, or whatever it's going to take to get me to that point where I enjoy every moment of my life. So the technology is sort of looking at how we affect gene expression. How does the body rebuild, renew, regenerate, recreate itself, remanifest itself minute to minute, day to day, to the point that we're pain-free, that we're energetic, that we're in a good mood, that we're feeling productive. And these are all of the attributes of what I call living an awesome life. So that's essentially the mission of the Primal Blueprint, is to give this technology to people so that they can live an awesome life.
Beautiful. And I got to tell you, the reason why I had to bring this to my colleagues, and we had this discussion just before we went on air, is not only did I find that it was a really helpful way for me to, it was a really important monthly aspect of my monthly marketing of my practice. But it honestly, this was life transforming for me and my health. So it was almost like, why should I not bring this to my patients? And the results that I was seeing when people were making that shift, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that shift exactly is, was just incredible. So it's really an extension of chiropractors. It's an extension of what we do. We're so prepared to bring this information to.
No, chiropractic has always been about being, enjoying life, being pain-free. For a lot of people is a huge part of enjoying life. People wake up in pain from the moment they hit the ground and spend their day focused on managing pain. That's not a way to live life. So I think, just as one kind of microcosm of what chiropractic offers in its pain solutions, this is just a tremendous enhancement to the other modalities that chiropractors are using in their offices right now. Weight loss, which is sort of, now we say weight loss is a side effect of living primally. It was, a lot of people think, well, this is about losing weight and becoming a fat burning beast, but the Primal Blueprint is about, again, enjoying as much of life as possible. And if losing weight and achieving your ideal body composition happens to be a side effect of that, that's a good thing. So there are a lot of these, and by the way, losing weight then has its effects on pain reduction because you're not carting around, a 50-pound backpack all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get this, I have almost this frustration sometimes that, I have patients who, have been coming see me for 13, 14 years, and they still are getting off the table, and there's still a complaint. There's still an issue going on, and I can adjust them till the end of time. But if we don't start to address those other factors, those lifestyle factors, and that comes back to actually Dr. Talley had a question here. And his question was, what is the first baby step that you would recommend for patients when getting them to consider the primal lifestyle?
First baby step is getting off sugar. Okay. It's really about eliminating those added sugars in your life, whether those are in meals, whether they're in the food, hidden in the foods that you think you're eating that you're eating that you think are healthy, whether it's in the desserts or the soft drinks. Getting off sugar has a dual effect. Number one, of reducing inflammation, and that's critical. And number two, it starts that process of becoming good at burning fat. And when we become good at burning fat, then we trend toward this ideal body composition. We decrease our dependency on glucose, so we don't have to eat as much. So appetite doesn't rule our lives. So really, just getting off sugar and getting off the sugary foods and the soft drinks and the added sugars is a huge first step that a lot of people can take. Now, for a lot of people who have a sweet tooth, it's not an easy first step, but it's a critical one.
And I guess giving them maybe some sort of a substitution.
Well, so this is the beautiful thing about the Primal Blueprint is that, we do have this list of foods that are inflammatory and we probably ought to avoid, if not entirely, then exclude them to a great extent out of our lives. And that list is a fairly short list, but it certainly includes grains for a lot of people, some legumes for some people, the industrial seed oils. But over here, we have this huge list of amazingly tasty, healthful foods that we can eat basically whenever we want, as long as we use our appetite to guide us in eating them. And in so doing, if you create a strategy that says every time I'm hungry for something sugary, if I can replace it with something that otherwise takes the edge off my hunger, let's say a teaspoon or a tablespoon full of coconut butter, which has an amazing effect on it actually, even though there's no sugar in it, and it's mostly fat, it has this sort of, it appeals to the sweet tooth because of what it is. And it will stave off hunger for as long as you need to get to a real meal with real food. So we have these little tricks of the trade that we can throw in there that give people tools so they don't sabotage themselves by saying, oh, you know what, I'm giving up all sugar, I'm going on a diet, this is going to be great. And then, 6 days later, they're like, I can't stand it anymore because I'm miserable. We don't want people to be miserable. We want people to enjoy every bite of food, every minute of the day. So part of the Primal Blueprint is do not allow yourself to go hungry. Just make sure that you take advantages of the technology that says, here are some of the foods that you could eat as a snack to kind of take the edge off the hunger and not put you down that bagel at 2 o'clock, pathway that so many people go down.
I have a question here from another doctor too, because autoimmune conditions are rampant, in society today. And obviously it's very linked to, I think, things such as gluten, leaky gut, a lot of these different theories. Well, I don't know, the science is actually out there now. Mm-hmm. But one of the questions, they have is there a specific recommendation that you have for for clients, like patients of ours that we're seeing that have, Crohn's, have Hashimoto's, have any sort of, RA, autoimmune?
Right. So, so autoimmune diseases, there's 75 autoimmune diseases, and probably all of them have some dietary etiology. There's probably something that the patient has done or is doing that continues to promote this immune response in the body that is disadvantageous, where the body doesn't recognize self because there's been some mimicry caused by the leaky gut, and the immune system has set up a response. In some cases, it may be, in Hashimoto's, it's the cells on the thyroid. In type 2 or type 1 diabetes, it's the beta cells, and so on. It's the chondrocytes in rheumatoid arthritis. There are a lot of different areas of the body that are susceptible to this immune imbalance. And so the answer is kind of generically, yes, there's something you can do that will, if not cure the issue, certainly alleviate some of the pain and go a long way toward providing the relief that you are otherwise seeking from very dangerous drugs and medicines, right? But there is not a catch-all, like one diet that's the autoimmune. I mean, there's autoimmune protocols, and those are great, and that's a great way to start by going, okay, here's what we're not going to eat. We're going to eliminate all the grains, eliminate all the legumes. We're going to eliminate all of the dairy for a period of time, and if we see some benefit, then we know that somewhere in the category of foods that we've eliminated is one or more of the offending ingredients. So then we can sort of play around and add them back. And that's the beauty of having a chiropractor or a physician involved, because the physician can do the tests, can do the blood test, can do whatever other tests, can on a regular basis check in with the patient and go, are you following this protocol? Have you eliminated these things? What do you notice? And that's where the chiropractor can make literally make the adjustments to the diet over time and impart real value to the patient that goes beyond the sort of standard in-office modalities.
Yeah, one thing that I'd commonly do with patients who were struggling with autoimmune, and it's so funny, well, it's not funny, it's so interesting how they would just walk in and all of a sudden they're diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And I would just suggest that they journal. But the question, I guess, would be, how long would you expect for someone to notice changes? I would typically have them journal for a week and see if they notice any change, next to each day, on a scale of 1 to 10, sleep quality, energy, whatever the symptom might be. So we could kind of track, what were the irritants, what was causing them challenges,
yes.
or if it's beneficial.
Yeah. So I mean, a week is minimum. I mean, I think you're going to see some, if there are some, offending ingredients or nutrients or molecules in there, you're going to see those generally within a week. However, like I'll take my own case. I mean, I had severe IBS most of my life, and it really it dictated what I did throughout the course of the day, how close to a bathroom I was. And it was really, I look back on it now, and I'm so far removed from that person 15 years ago that I almost can't identify with the headspace I was in about being frantic for access to some facility throughout the day. But my point is, within a month or so of getting off grains, I noticed tremendous relief. My arthritis that I had in my fingertips was gone. The IBS that had run my life was gone. The gastroesophageal reflux that I'd had on a regular basis was gone. I don't share this with everyone because this is a close seminar to doctors. I mean, I had hemorrhoids my whole life, and they come and go, and I thought it was a result of working too hard. 15 years gone, nothing, and I thought this was something I was going to have to live with the rest of my life. All these things went away for the most part within 30 days. Now, what I will tell you is that I continue to heal my gut. So a lot of this is dependent on how much damage you've done. I've done damage for 47 years, and it wasn't going to take 30 days to fix it. It was going to take removing the offending molecules and behaviors to dramatically change how I felt very quickly. But the cure, the healing, the rebuilding, it took things like, as recently as a year and a half ago, I gave up drinking red wine. I thought red wine was certainly fine and allowable because all the research on resveratrol and antioxidants and two cohorts of teetotalers and drinkers show that the drinkers live longer. All this stuff was sort of compelling evidence to allow me to continue to drink alcohol. When I gave up the alcohol, I took yet another step toward healing my gut. So it's a very, and again, back to what can docs do with their patients. This is a long-term strategy. So it's good for business, I guess, in that you don't just fix it in a week and say, well, look, I changed everything. I never need to go get an adjustment. I don't need to go get any more manipulations. I don't need any more heat treatments. I'm done. No, it continues. It's just that you get 70 or 80% of the value very quickly, and the rest of it takes this experiment of one and working with your your physician or your chiropractor on a one-to-one basis over time.
And Dr. Paul has a great question here too. Thank you for that. I mean, he actually asks, when we're looking at integrating this into a wellness practice, and would you recommend, like he's saying, like a quarterly 21-day transformation, something like that? I mean, in the expert certification with, by the way, everyone who's watching this, if you look to the right-hand side on the webinar jam bar there's actually a button you can click. It won't take you away from the webinar, but it will take you actually to a page where there is an expert certification with some information there that you can dive into, and you can still hear us and listen to us, but you can actually opt in to actually get some more information on the certification. So back to Dr. Paul's question, and the question is this, would you recommend doing, say, something like quarterly 21-day guided transformations? How would you implement those as a marketing strategy?
That's a great idea. And as a marketing strategy, I wrote the 21-day total body transformation specifically for medical professionals to give to their patients and say, this is a book. It's got big type and lots of pictures and lots of diagrams and easy to read. You can read it in an evening, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about how to transform your life to become this strong, fit, healthy person that we both want you to be. Now, having said that, and it's a guided experience. It tells you what you need to do every day for 21 days. But it was always intended to be something that the docs could work with the patient and check in and say, how's it going? And what adjustments do we need to make? And have you, did you really clean out your pantry, or did you just sort of, go through the motions? Are you being really good about avoiding these things that we know are offensive foods, and so on? So it's a partner strategy with the medical professional and the patient, guided by this 21-day transformation. So to answer the question, a quarterly sort of review would be a great marketing program. I mean, talk about going to a patient and saying, okay, we're going to spend the next year fixing you and changing everything about how you eat and how you move and how you sleep and your sun exposure. We're going to dial it all in so that you live an awesome life. And a lot of it's going to happen in the first 21 days. But we're going to do every 90 days, we're going to re-up and we're going to check back in, and we're going to do another, more closely guided review of this, because sometimes, the 21 days is exciting and you get through it and you get the results, and then the results were so good, you forget how bad things were the old way. And so you get off the wagon, and I've seen this happen quite a bit, where people get such great results that they think, oh, I'm cured, I'm done, I can go back to doing whatever I want now, And it's really important to check back in every once in a while and go, am I still on that path? Am I still going? Because everybody likes to do what they can get away with. It's like, okay, what can I get away with? How bad can I be? What's the most amount of food I can eat and not gain weight? What's the most amount of cake I can have and not go into a diabetic shock? I mean, you know what I mean? So people are always trying to push that envelope. So it's really critical, if you're serious about your health, to come back every once in a while, check back in, and do I think this idea that Paul has about a quarterly guided 21-day transformation is an awesome idea. And it's a great marketing idea, because, if you have a great relationship with your patient as a chiropractor, you want that to be a lifelong relationship where you're working together to constantly improve. Now, the first improvement might take place and it might be dramatic, but over time, you still want it to trend in the direction of improvement.
Yeah. And I mean, if we even circle back onto, because one of the docs has a question here about actual revenue. How can we actually make this something that's generating profit, not just value for our patients? But personally, what I would do is, I have a really strong relationship with a CrossFit facility here in town. They love Primal. They love teaching paleo. I would go in, and out of 25 people that would sign up for that workshop that I would teach, which is essentially Primal, 24 of them would schedule a time to come in for a new patient appointment, and they become part of our practice. But what also I'd like to point out, and I think this is correct, this is the question, is you do have supportive products that go with the program with Primal as well for patients.
Oh yeah, so the 21-day total body transformation, for instance, is available at less than what Amazon pays for it to sell it on Amazon. Available for docs to buy in quantity, and either sell them to the patient. In many cases, I've had docs put together a 2-month a program that maybe one of their assistants administers. Maybe it's somebody who's somebody else in the office who's gotten a certification and can spend the time one-on-one in a room, away from the treatment room, but in a room just going over the book and at $75 a visit or whatever for a half an hour, and that physician's assistant or that assistant is certainly not making that. So that's a revenue generator. Like you said, a lot of the docs are doing their own local seminars. Once you become Primal Blueprint certified, you have access to our actual PDFs on how to explain this to the lay public. So you can hold a free seminar, again, at a CrossFit box, at a gym, at a yoga studio, you name it, and that's another marketing strategy. But with the social media today, it's pretty easy to do. And like you say, you get 30, 40, 50 people show up. It's a free evening, and you can sign people up doing that. You can charge for it if you want. We also, as part of the Primal Blueprint, we offer supplements. So I talk a lot about sun and how critical sun is, but we're told to avoid getting burned, and it's just impractical for a lot of people to get sun. And what's the reason you get sun? Vitamin D. So we make a vitamin D supplement. We sell it at a deep discount to people who are certified that they can resell. Same with, we make probably the preeminent probiotic formula in the world right now. It's a multi-spore forming based probiotic. It's called Primal Flora. Tremendous reviews across the board. We sell that at a deep discount to docs because we think that the microbiome of the gut is a critical part of reaccessing good health, particularly if you've had leaky gut or gut damage as a result of your diet. So all of these products that we offer at the Primal Blueprint are available to those who have taken the certification.
And I'm all about systems in my office. I mean, and so the nice thing that I like about it is even with the 21-day transformation it's a system. So it's something that you can put into play. It's already branded. Someone's already done the work, already done the research. It's just you actually plug and play.
Yeah, it's quite easy for the patient to do on his or her own, and yet it's so much more beneficial if it's guided. And there's no discussion about the validity of it. If it's guided by a doc, that's just that much more valid. So it's, and it could, again, it doesn't even have to be the doc. It could be, a few minutes of conversation saying, well, Sally over here is going to be your mentor over the next 2 months. We're going to spend 21 days going through this, and she'll check in on a regular basis. In fact, what some docs do is they'll say, okay, for the $900 that we're charging to completely revamp your life, we include a visit to your house where we actually take you through cleaning out the pantry, and we put stuff in a trash bag, and you decide you want to store it, throw it away, give it away, whatever. We take you shopping. And so there's one day of, we're going to go to the grocery store, your favorite grocery store. I'm going to show you how to shop for the best items. And then if you order online, we'll show you that. So it's really hands-on kind of stuff. Now this is has real value to people who are looking to change their lives and are afraid to take that first step. And it doesn't have to be the doc who does it. It can be someone in the doc's office who's, who took the certification or knows enough about this to guide them through the experience.
Yeah, and the way that I did this too, I remember when I did my very first Primal nutrition workshop, and I kind of worded it that way, Primal Paleo. I had actually 110 people show up for that workshop. I was blown away. And it also gave us the door to open up a really amazing relationship with a health food store, who also had a butcher that had hormone-free food, beef and things like that. So it's almost gives you the ability to network as well with other professionals, other people in the community.
No, and you will build a community for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people who are into the primal lifestyle are now looking for others who are into that lifestyle so that they can share, the resources and share the experiences with.
So I'm gonna fire a couple other different questions at you. One of the interesting questions Dr. Karen had is if you could eat one food, Mark, what would that be for the rest of your life? Only one food.
Good or bad? I mean, if it was if it was bad, it would be Cherry Garcia ice cream. But if it was, but lamb is probably my favorite food. I mean, lamb is my real indulgence. I love to order it and try out different lamb recipes around the world wherever I go.
Okay, what are your thoughts on bacon?
I'm not the biggest fan of bacon, just from a taste perspective. A couple of bites of crispy bacon are great with eggs. I do think that bacon has been way overdone as the iconic paleo food. There are variations of how bacons are cured and treated, and some of them are very sort of paleo primal friendly, and some of them are like, wow, where did that come from? So I get a kick out of the fact that all the paleo people wearing bacon t-shirts and talking about bacon ice cream. But personally, it's like a lot of these things. It's fine in moderation, but to make it as the sort of the bottom of your primal food pyramid, probably not so much.
So I'm firing through as many questions from docs as I possibly can, because I know your schedule. So eggs, Mark, yolk in or yolk out?
Oh yeah, yolk in. Absolutely. In fact, my wife asked for an all egg yolk omelet the other day. That's how all in she is. I mean, most of the good nutrition is in the yolks, and the albumin, the whites are a source of protein. That's fine. It's a good way to get your protein. But yeah, I make it a point to never eat a bite of food that I don't thoroughly enjoy. And so the concept of egg white omelets is like, what's the point? You're trying to choke something down because supposedly it's healthier than a full egg omelet, and yet it's not worth doing. So yeah, eggs are good. Again, in moderation, but I mean, doing 25 eggs a week, you look for some other sources of protein.
And do you say that simply because of, I mean, this links in with cholesterol, because this is one of the biggest challenges that I hear with docs too, is like when we're approaching patients, saturated fat, egg yolk, these types of foods, they're like, well, my, salt, my doctor said don't eat those.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons, one of the best reasons to take the certification is you dig really deeply into the science of this, and you find out what it is behind the original misunderstanding that saturated fat was the proximate cause of heart disease. You understand that cholesterol is a very important molecule that the body will make, 1,400 milligrams a day, even if you deprive it of all other food sources of cholesterol. And yet there's some discussion, deep discussion about if you overcook eggs, you are oxidizing the cholesterol. And while it's the cholesterol that's not necessarily the issue, the oxidized cholesterol should be. So there's ways to cook eggs that are more beneficial. There are ways to cook meats that are more beneficial. So the discussion on red meat sometimes comes down to how is it cooked? How is it prepared? If it's prepared one way, it's grass-fed, it's beautiful, it's as healthy as a food as you can find. If it's CAFO, concentrated animal feedlot operation, conventionally grain-fed, hormone antibiotic-filled cow that's been grilled and beaten up on the outside on the barbecue, probably not your best choice. And you learn in the certification kind of where foods fall in the spectrum, and how to really eat intuitively, and to coach your patients on how to eat intuitively, rather than racking their brain going, oh my God, what did Mark say about fried eggs versus scrambled eggs, or what did he say about red meat? No, you become very intuitive about making these choices, and so there's no guilt. And again, talking about living an awesome life, which includes being guilt-free. So you wake up ready to hit the day, running, you're guilt-free, you're pain-free, you're excited about what's going to happen, not dreading it. And all of these things some of them come down to the choices that you make.
I love this. And it's funny because I remember teaching my paleo primal workshop once, and it was actually to a group of RNs. And at the end, a vegetarian, someone who was a vegetarian came up and asked me a question, and it actually stopped me in my tracks. So I had one of those moments where I'm just like, I don't know the answer to that, which, was my answer. Yeah. But I remember, I think if I had the certification, I probably would have been more intelligently been able to answer the question. But it was like something like that spinach has a higher percentage of volume of protein than, say, like beef.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on a gram for gram basis, that's true. But if you look at a big serving of spinach, it might only have, without the butter, without the sauce, just a giant serving of spinach might only have, 50 calories. I mean, it's a very micronutrient dense food that I highly recommend eating for the micronutrition, but not for the calories. You're not going to get a lot of calories. So if 50% of the calories come from protein in spinach, that means 25 calories of that 50 came from protein. That means there's 6 grams of protein. Okay, that's how vegetarians survive, but you can't really look at this on a gram for gram basis. It's not comparing apples to apples because you'd have to eat so much spinach. You'd have to eat like Popeye amounts of spinach to get significant amounts of protein. So it's kind of a little one of those little mnemonic devices or whatever that vegetarians use to sort of justify the choice of vegetable protein over animal protein.
Yeah, and I survived as a vegetarian for years, and then I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So,
yeah,
and I was an ultra marathon runner. I was probably anti-primal, if you could say.
I mean, that was, not unlike my own. I ate lots of complex carbs and did lots of running, and it got me a couple of medals and IBS and arthritis and all the other things we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to, before we kind of finish up, because we've been about 30 minutes now, and that's what we promised docs we were going to do, is that Q&A for 30 minutes. But Dr. Brian has one final question for you. And it basically is like, and I know Dr. Brian was asking about autoimmune conditions too, is some of our patients can't really tolerate egg protein, especially if they have autoimmune conditions. Is there any sort of a substitution you'd recommend for breakfast?
Well, first of all, yeah, breakfast is breaking fast. So it's the first meal of the day, which for a lot of people means as soon as you get up, that's a breakfast. But my breakfast is actually lunch. I break my fast with my first meal of the day at noon or at 1 o'clock. You don't have to. I suggest that if you become good at burning fat and you wake up and you have lots of energy, why eat? You really don't need to eat until you're hungry, and we allow hunger to sort of guide us through life. So that means that last night's chicken breast could be a great breakfast for somebody. A leftover lamb chop. There are some grain-free granolas that are pretty good if you have to have something that was a traditional breakfast food. There are a number of. There's no magic in eggs for breakfast, and if you can't eat eggs, look, you're fine. Life is going to be beautiful without eggs. I guarantee you. There are lots of ways to go.
Beautiful. So what I'm going to do is just let docs know again that over on the right-hand side, so on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll actually see a button. If you go ahead and click on that, you'll be taken away, not out of the webinar, but you will be taken over to the Primal Blueprint Expert Certification page for chiropractors. And there's information there, some more details. And if you want to go ahead and actually register for that and get even more information or dive deep, I was on the emailing back and forth with a doc who's already jumped on the program and loving it last night. But go ahead and do that now. Docs, also, if you're just catching the end of this webinar, we are going to have a 72-hour replay. You will be emailed the replay link, so you can watch this actually whenever you like over the next 3 days or so, and also jump into the expert certification. Mark, awesome. Great stuff.
Thanks for having me. And again, I just want to encourage the docs that, this certification, I think, can tremendously enhance not only your income, because I know that's true, but can enhance the experience that you have, the relationship you have with your patients. And ultimately, I think that's golden right there.
Yeah. And Mark, I'll just, even state, I even took that primal workshop that I use, and I gave it to one of my coaching clients to use, just my workshop, which, it's really a lot of what I learned from your book, from your readings. And he had, I think last month, he had 6 new patients in his office the whole entire month. He went and did that workshop, and he had over 20 new patients from that one workshop. Then he emailed, he's in Spain. He texted me last night via Skype, and he said he had another 12 patients, and they gave him a standing ovation at the end of the,
That's right.
lecture.
It's compelling stuff, and it resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah. So I want to thank you so much. I think what you're providing for our profession is just incredibly valuable. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.